We got some big injuries and a couple of big waiver wire targets to pick up on Sunday night. We'll talk about it next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome to FBT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Scott White. And Scott, we've got some big injuries to talk about, so we'll start with that before we get to a hitter and a pitcher on the waiver wire who look like potentially very interesting guys to add who, frankly, we might need, because Joe Musgrove was diagnosed with inflammation in his right shoulder capsule. He will be shut down at least 3 weeks. And you look at a calendar, you start doing the math. I'm in a league where the playoffs already started. I have one fewer league to set lineups for now. I didn't make the playoffs in that one, but we're about 7 weeks away from the start of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Joe Musgrove shut down for 3 weeks. Then he starts throwing again. Maybe he makes a rehab start. Maybe he doesn't. You really start to run out of time pretty quickly when you do that math. So
yeah,
if you don't have an IL spot, are you dropping Joe Musgrove?
I think it's defensible in the scenario where you don't have an IL spot, and hopefully you don't find yourself in a league like that, because it would stink to have to do that. I will say, though, that the people seem most desperate for starting pitching off the waiver wire right now. So I think that if nothing else, that's reason to try and wait it out with Musgrove, to try and stick it out, because, I mean, are you going to make better use of that roster spot realistically? If you drop him, somebody probably is going to pick him up and try and stash him. So I would try not to, but it is defensible if you have a greater need.
All right, and then the Guardians lost Josh Naylor for 3 to 6 weeks with a right oblique strain. Kind of the same thing. Timeline makes it really, really tough for him to come back. And then Josh Young suffered a fractured left thumb trying to catch a Jorge Soler line drive on Sunday. No timetable yet, but that's another one where if he came back in a month, I think that's probably a best case scenario. So both Josh Naylor and Josh Young, really hard to keep around if you don't have an IL spot to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Any replacement options on those teams that you're interested in? I know Ezekiel Duran will probably play more third base and probably has a clearer path to everyday playing time moving forward, right?
Yeah, that's, I think, the best one. If you're looking to replace Josh Young, is just maybe the guy on his own team. He had started to lose playing time in the second half, Duran had, because really poor production since the All-Star break. But if you go to a StatCast page, it's still a lot of red there. Expected batting average 271, expected slug 476. He's a guy who can steal base on occasion. So the fact that Ezekiel Duran entered Sunday batting 146 since the All-Star break, it might have been reason for the Rangers to back off him when they had Josh Young healthy, but now that he's not, I think they're going to have to get Duran back in the lineup.
All right, Scott, who the heck is Davis Schneider? Just set the world on fire in Toronto. And yes. I mean, you look at the trend: 2 hits on Friday, 3 hits on Saturday, 4 on Sunday. Oh. He's going to get 5 hits on Monday, right? Lock it in.
That has to be.
Homered on Friday and Sunday, went 9 for 13, already hitting third in the lineup. By Sunday, was hitting 274 with an OPS north of 950 at AAA. Tons of walks, decent quality of contact metrics. He is 10% rostered. How rostered should he be Monday afternoon?
40 to 50%, I would say. He is obviously not a big name prospect. That's why you phrased it that way. Who's Davis Schneider? I barely heard of him myself before he got called up here, but he did have a productive year at AAA, 21 homers in 87 games, reached base at a 416 clip. He is now the first player in Major League history to have 9 hits and 2 home runs in his first 3 games. So we'll always
pretty good
Davis Schneider for that. Is he going to burn out quickly here? I think that's more likely than that Davis Schneider becomes a superstar, but he could be a fine player. He does. You mentioned his exit velocity readings are nothing special. That's true. He does elevate the ball well. He does pull it at a high rate. And that's how you can make up for subpar exit velocity readings. And it seems like the Blue Jays are interested in playing him right now, even kicking Whit Merrifield to the outfield to do it, to get Schneider there at second base. So any league where you have a corner infield spot, he's already third base eligible, right? Corner infield spot or middle infield, seems like he's going to pick up second. I think it's fine to pick up Schneider and see where this takes him.
All right, let's talk about Chase Silseth before we go. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts against the Mariners on Sunday. Double-digit strikeouts in 2 of 3 starts since coming back from AAA. 8 swinging strikes with the slider, 12 with his splitter on Sunday. That's not a new pitch, but the usage rate was way up for him, and it maybe unlocked something for him. Only through his four-seam fastball about 25% of the time. Chase Silseth is, if you listen to the full episode of the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast, you'll know he's the clear top waiver wire option at starting pitcher. Would you drop Luis Severino, Bryce Elder, and Reed Detmers to add Chase Silseth this weekend?
I would have no hesitation about dropping Severino for Silseth or anyone, frankly. I'd have some hesitation with Reed Detmers, but Silseth is kind of doing what we've been hoping Reed Detmers would do, and Detmers hasn't been doing it. I'm most hesitant with Elder because of his supporting cast and his tendency to pitch deep into games, but he's had more bad starts than good recently. So in shallow leagues, especially, you could at least consider it.
Yeah, 6.60 ERA, 1.57 WHIP for Bryce Elder since July 1st.
Yeah, I mean, since really 3 starts in a row now, Silseth has looked very impressive, getting a ton of swinging strikes with the slider, taking about 1 mile per hour and a half of velocity off of it. And then you add the splitter that became this incredible pitch for him on Sunday. And there's a lot to be excited about here with Chase Silseth.
All right, that's going to do it for Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll see you tomorrow.